Vince McMahon is a mad old f***er. Now, I know that isn't surprising, but it's actually quite relevant, as this week's Raw drew gasps aplenty when Seth, "Why have you made my finisher a knee? That's my one weakness, guys," Rollins hit the curb stomp on Finn Balor. This could have only been done with the thumbs up from the big man, so does that mean it's back to stay? Here's hoping, as it's a lovely looking thing when it's done right. However, it might also just be a flash in the pan for no reason other than to remind us of how cool some moves look. I mean, who actually knows what's going on in Vince's brain at the best of times? Yet it's not the only time that the WWE has lifted the ban hammer for a good old foray into more violent waters. With this in mind, I'm Jules of WhatCulture.com, and these are the 7 shocking times WWE revived banned moves. Number 7, the Tombstone. So, back when Taker was in the midst of his American badass run, did you notice that he actually stopped using the Tombstone in favor of the Last Ride? Well, this was in part to change up the character, but it was mostly down to the fact that there were horrific neck injuries going around at the time. In the late 1990s, the WWE had seen many high-profile stars benched, most notably Stone Cold Steve Austin at the hands of a fudge tombstone by Owen Hart. This led Vince understandably to blanket ban all piledrivers, which even saw the company cornerstone Taker take a hit. The Last Ride was born to circumvent this change, which doesn't look much safer, basically changing the neck for back, but whatever, it looked ace. Yet the ban was softened when, after 2 years of not seeing the move, Taker busted out on Triple H and Shane McMahon, who were weirdly enough the last 2 people to take it before that ban hit. It's all gone full circle, yo. It's all very zen. Number 6, Burning Hammer. The Burning Hammer was a subject of some consternation in WWE dressing rooms in the mid-2000s, but surprisingly not for its inherent danger. A blow-up between Tyler Rex and John Cena ultimately resulted in the move disappearing from view after the champ angrily implied that it bore too many similarities to his attitude adjustment. Rex commented, "I used it all at bragging rights in 2010 and John was literally across the ring from me when I hit Santino with it. I've been using it for 8 months on Superstars and everything before that. I come backstage and John grabs me in front of everyone and says, 'What do you think you're doing? I thought I told you to find a new finisher.' I said, 'Yeah, I thought you were joking, John. I'm really sorry.' He started yelling at me and asking who gave me permission to use that. He belittled me, called me an idiot, and asked if I enjoyed working here. I told him of course I do. He told me, 'Find another finisher or you're fired.' I was humiliated. I was a full-grown man. Why can't we all talk about this like human beings? Why indeed, my man? Why indeed?" Well, clearly Brian Kendrick and Kota Ibushi didn't get the memo as they both used the move on the Cruiserweight Classic. I doubt that John Cena had a problem with them though. Number 5, Blood. Blood was still a strict no-no when Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin produced perhaps the most effective use of it in modern industry history. Their eclectic WrestleMania 13 clash was only bettered by the spilling of a bit of the red stuff. But Vince was absolutely fuming about it. The chairman had banned Blood outright for pretty much all of the 90s, and upon seeing Stone Cold drenched in ketchup, ordered the cams to cut to the announce table rather than show it. Yet, clearly noticing the impact this had on the crowd and how the visual of the rattlesnake in a flowing mask of crimson became the talking point for ages afterwards, made his stance lessen somewhat. And by that I mean it pretty much kick-started the Attitude Era, a period of television that might as well have had a splash zone for the amount of claret that was spilled. Number 4, Piledriver. After their legendary match in 2013 on Raw, CM Punk and John Cena got an absolute bollocking. Why? Well, I'll tell you, Simon Miller, why. It's because Punk bust out a piledriver, which is pretty much like running your finger through your sweaty crack and then asking Vince to smell it and like it. They both knew the move had been banned, and even Jerry Lawler had resorted to his other finishing move, dropping the piledriver because of Vince's understandable fear of neck injuries. Despite contravening a long-held law, neither man was ultimately punished beyond their post-match reprimand. The move featured in selected highlight packages of the clash too, implying that the chairman was aware of how powerful this spot was within the body of the battle. Number 3, Shooting Star Press. Pioneered in WWE by Mark Merrow of all people, the Shooting Star Press was at one point the most spectacular high spot in the company until a string of injuries resulted in it being arguably the most dangerous. After Shane McMahon sorted himself out with another concussion doing one onto a bin at King of the Ring 2001, Brock Lesnar infamously escaped death with an undershot effort at WrestleMania 19. When Billy Kidman nearly caved in Chavo Guerrero's head in 2004, the move had to go. but disappearing into exile rebuilt the buzz around the spot. Evan Bourne's 2008 revival of the move came with a surprisingly logical test from WWE. In order to make it onto television with it as his finisher, he had to perform the move 10 times onto a crash mat in an empty ring. He was obviously successful. It's allegedly a system that still exists to this day for that and similar variants, regardless of a performer's previous experience. WWE even added a stunt ring to the Performance Center, custom built to soften the landing if aspiring talents wish to safely practice. Isn't that nice? Number 2, Curb Stomp. As we mentioned before, the curb stomp was a thing of beauty. Absolutely fucking terrible if it went wrong, but beautiful when it went right. The finisher was ripped away from the architect midway through his 2015 WWE title reign, amidst fears that it would be mimicked by overzealous children in playgrounds across the world. Now, admittedly, the relatively straightforward setup of a crawling opponent does open it up for imitation, but no more so than a powerbomb or superkick or figure 4 leg lock between mates who are just palling around and hopped up on sugar or Dora the Explorer, whatever kids are on nowadays. Probably smack, isn't it? And let's face it, his pedigree that he adopted from the emotionally abusive father figure that was Triple H was less than stellar. And his knee? Well, I mean, the fact that they haven't even given it a name other than The Knee shows how fucking well that's tracking. Basically, Rollins needs this move because he's had absolute trash since it was taken away. And I mean, come on, what's a few broken jaws and teeth between friends? And number 1, Blood 2.0. Blood, theoretically, has no place on a WWE television in the modern age. Wrestlers have been fired and suspended for less, thanks to a hugely profitable licensing deal with Mattel and the tightrope WWE walks maintaining a credible PG rating on all of their output. Then again, the chairman has free rein to break and bend his own rules, and did both in order to elevate his son Shane's rivalry with Kevin Owens back in 2017. Bleeding hard way, allegedly, from a heavy-duty headbutt, the visual of a bludgeoned and beaten McMahon was powerful enough to require a Hell in a Cell payoff for such a gruesome act. Now, that's not to say that talent are going to start shedding the sweet stuff again, but it does mark that blood can be used to sell. In many ways, if played right, a little bit of red can mean a whole lot of green.
Well done, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Now, I'm not just here to increase our market share with women aged 18 to 35, but to tell you to watch one of these other videos we've made that are probably quite good. So, go on, off you, that one or that one, they're both good. There you go.